Hello, you fabulous people. It is tea time with Tia. How are you today? I hope you're having a great day. Have you ever had a wow moment in your life that just made you stop in your tracks and say, wow, what in the world is that about? Or what is going on? But these wow moments were not moments of negativity, but moments of positivity that you knew God had to be behind it. Rather, Yahweh, should I say. I say Yahweh because in the book of Exodus, chapter 3, we're told by Moses' situation in his conversation with God that God prefers to be called Yahweh, and that's his permanent name to be used for all generations. So I say Yahweh because that's what God prefers to be called. Now, moving forward, the interesting thing about this gentleman named Moses, we're going to have to visit Exodus to the 2nd Street, okay? So we're going to visit Exodus on the 2nd Street just a little bit, just give you a little backstory, but we're not going to spend a lot of time. The focus today is on Exodus the 3rd Street. Now, Exodus means exiting, okay? So it was all about the exit from Egypt. However, Exodus 2 tells us what happened. So we're going to talk about a little bit of situation that happened on 2nd Street where Moses actually, was birthed. Moses was birthed by this young lady who decided that her son was not going to be eliminated, even though that's what Pharaoh wanted. She was not having it. So she hid her baby until she could hide him no more. But she said that she saw something special about him. She doesn't tell us what was special about Moses. However, she had not even given him the name. I'm going to tell you who gave him the name in just a moment. But I want to focus on the fact that she saw something special about her baby. She doesn't tell us what that was. But when he got grown and he had a conversation with God, he told us through his conversation with God that he had a stuttering problem. Because of his speech impediment, he felt like he was disqualified from God being able to use him. I found that very interesting, and I'm so glad that God doesn't disqualify us based on our deficiencies or what have you. God uses who he uses, and it's not about your status in this life, whether you're affluent or not affluent. It doesn't matter where you come from. God uses who he uses. So always keep that in mind, and do not shun people that God decides to use. He has a specific purpose when he calls people out, and it's not for us to criticize or judge why did God choose that person. You take that up with God if you ever have any concerns about who he uses. Now, whoever God uses, being his choice, does have a responsibility now to hold that office to a certain standard that represents God. So let's go back to my story. Now, getting back as far as Moses' youth, his mother puts him on the Nile River inside a basket, and she gives him to God and just trusts the Lord, to do with his life that God will. When Moses gets to a certain point on the Nile River, we know that Pharaoh's daughter decided not to flow with her daddy's desire, and she just go ahead and picked him up and just takes him in as her own. She was the one who named him Moses, all right? Pharaoh's daughter names him Moses, and then Pharaoh's sister just happened to be around when this whole thing capped off. Do you really believe that Moses' sister Miriam just happened to be there? Or do you think it was a God setup? I would say it was a God setup. That's my personal opinion. The scripture doesn't say that God, put Miriam in that situation. However, God sure did use the occasion, didn't he? If he did not set it up that way, he sure used the situation, right? So Miriam asked Pharaoh's daughter if she wanted her to find someone that could nurse Moses. And Pharaoh's daughter was down with that and actually paid the person to nurse Moses till he got a certain age, till she could have him back. And guess who it was that Miriam found for Moses? Of course, Moses' mother. So Moses' mother gave Moses up for the Lord, right? Received him back with pay until he was old enough. So it tells us that she kept him and weaned him until he was old enough, and she gave him back to Pharaoh's daughter, right? So what's interesting is when she gave him back, she just honored her vow that she would do so, And the beauty of it, well, I don't know if she actually made an actual vow, but she seemed to be a woman of integrity. So she didn't even try to keep him longer than he was weaned, which was to her credit as far as showing that she was a woman of her word. Now, he goes back to Pharaoh's daughter, but he actually knew who he was. He knew his sister, he knew his brother Aaron, and he knew who his mother was. And so he also knew that he was a Hebrew. He knew that he was being raised in an Egyptian home. He had an Egyptian education. He had to find things that could be offered at Pharaoh's table because of the fact that he was Pharaoh's grandson. And being Pharaoh's grandson, he was loved by Pharaoh, right? Pharaoh adopted this Hebrew boy, which was ironic considering Pharaoh's the concern and disgust with the Hebrew children, to the point where he wanted them eliminated because he had issues going on. One of his issues was that he was concerned about the Israelites getting so populated that they would become a threat to him. He didn't want that. So that's why he did what he did. But Pharaoh didn't understand that he was part of a bigger picture that we will see down the road as far as how this whole thing really plays out. Now, moving forward, what is more interesting about this story is that when Moses get around, let's say about 40 years old, there's an issue happen, okay? And then him and his grandfather, Pharaoh, didn't see things too well. Let's just say it like that. To the point where Moses had to run for his life. So, in running for his life, Moses decided to go to this place called Midian, which is, we could call it the wilderness, bunch of mountains, not a whole lot of population at that time. So now this gets us up to where I'm going. So one day, on 3rd Street, all right, Exodus chapter 3, it says, one day Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro. Oh, by the way, yes, Moses got married. His wife's name was Zipporah. She was an Egyptian woman, okay? So you had the Hebrew intermingle with this Egyptian. But she was not just any Egyptian. She was actually one that feared the Lord, okay? She loved Yahweh. So one day Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law Jethro. He was the priest of Midian, okay? He led the flock far into the wilderness and came to Sinai, the mountain of God. Now, according to the map, Sinai is in Saudi Arabia. And Apostle Paul made reference to that in the book of Galatians. I believe it was Galatians 4:25, where Paul mentioned Haggai being in that area. So, moving forward, it says, there the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the middle of a bush. Wow. That is a wow moment. Right there. Moses stared in amazement. Like, what is going on? Though the bush was engulfed in flames, it didn't burn up. This is amazing, Moses said to himself. Why isn't that bush burning up? I must go see it. When the Lord saw Moses coming to take a closer look, God called him from the middle of the bush. Moses, Moses. Here I am, Moses replied. Can you imagine that wow moment he had right then and there? Like, what is this going on? And then be able to have a conversation with God, the creator of your soul. Oh my goodness, that was a beautiful moment right there. Now, moving forward, he says, do not come any closer, the Lord warned. Take off your sandals, for you are standing on holy ground. I am the God of your father. Now right there, I would be messed up. You let me have been in that situation, hearing the voice of God like that, I wouldn't have been standing up. I wouldn't have not have just taken my shoes off. I would have just have fallen over in awe that I was speaking to God. Now, what's interesting, we have people in our generation who get so excited about celebrities, and some people, unfortunately, in some concerts have passed out because they saw the celebrity that does not know their name, that does not pay their bills, that does not take any personal interest in them, right? But people go crazy. However, it is all right to go crazy when you have God who knows your name, okay, who you know was responsible for bringing you into this world, who created all things. Now that's one you go crazy about, you get excited about, you just lose it because that's exciting, right? So now, moving forward, he says, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. When Moses heard this, he covered his face because he was afraid to look at God. How many of you all are just candid or just very loose when it comes to approaching God? You think he's your homeboy or your girlfriend or something like that. No, he is God, creator of our soul and our mind, and he's the one who's given us breath, and we shouldn't approach him like that. We should reverence him, because you know what's interesting, when people come across celebrities, they don't approach celebrities in that note. They approach, some people approach celebrities with such awe and such excitement, but God is the one to be revered above all. We just should give him all the glory and all that is due to him. Now moving forward, Moses covered his face because God was just that amazing to look upon. He was afraid to look at him. And that is totally understood. Then the Lord told him, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. Now, that blessed me. God said he has seen the oppression of his people in Egypt. How many instances in your life have you wondered, God, do you know what's going on? Do you see the situation? Yes, God sees it. God said to Moses, I have heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. God saw it. And God see how you're mistreated. God see how things are going down. He's not asleep. He doesn't slumber. He's always awake. He said, yes, I am aware of their suffering, so I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. This is amazing to me. God said he has come down, so God came from heaven to visit the earth, and he was right there in front of Moses. Isn't that amazing? So he says, it is a land flowing with milk and honey, the land where the Canaanites, the Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. A lot of ites going on, right? He said, look, the cry of the people of Israel has reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abused them. Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people, Israel, out of Egypt. Oh, that's a big responsibility. I want you to really understand and see. How many times have God told you to do things? And you say, no, God, I can't. But if you know someone that you look up to in this earth and they tell you to do something, how much more likely are you to listen to a human being over God? Well, I asked that question because it's important to know how, yes, Moses had this same struggle. Moses was talking to the God of the universe, and he just felt like, whoa, like really, like me, you know what I'm saying? So he God now is asking Moses to go to Pharaoh to lead his people. Now someone brought to my attention that, to be honest with you, you know why God chose Moses, right? And it makes sense. Someone brought to my attention that God chose Moses because Moses was familiar with Pharaoh. No one could just go up into Pharaoh's, house like that. No, not happening. No, it's not going to happen like that. Moses was not going to just, no one could have the right, okay, to go up into Pharaoh's space and tell him to let his people go. Now, I would like to bring to your attention that Moses was not going to the Pharaoh he ran from. He was actually going to the Pharaoh he was raised with. He went to Pharaoh's son. So this was somebody that Moses knew personally. They grew up together, like, uncle, all right? Because this was Pharaoh's son. So he was like, Moses was like a nephew to Pharaoh's son, well, adopted nephew, right? So it was all good. They had a different type of relationship, okay? So he did not hold against Moses what his dad had held against him. Because if that was the case, that would have been a whole different story, right? But Moses protested to God. And Moses was like, who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? Now, isn't that what we do to God? God said, I want you to just go to the store and I want you to talk to someone who's going to be standing on the corner and just let them know that I love them. What? Who am I, Lord, that I should go and speak to a person that does not know me on your behalf because you said it? God, can you send somebody else that knows this person? And God said, no, I want to send you. I trust you. And I know you can do this. But because we don't trust ourselves enough to know that we can carry out what God has told us, we tell God no. And that's not, fair to God for us to tell him no when he knows all things and he created us. And God is not going to tell you to do anything that he does not give you the ability to carry out. He wouldn't do that because God is not haphazard. He's not like man. He doesn't do stuff kind of crazy like that. Only man does things like that. So we can trust God. It's man that we cannot trust. So God answered, I will be with you, and this is your sign that I am the one who has sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain. But Moses protested, if I go to the people of Israel and tell them, the God of your ancestors was sent to me, they will ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? God replied to Moses, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. Now can you imagine how Moses felt thinking about how this was going to look, going to Pharaoh saying, I am sent me to you now? But that's where faith comes in. Moses, if he had the faith, he could have said that with such conviction, then, that would have, not have gone down as difficult as it seemed to Moses because God told him to do it, right? That's what we think. But of course, for some of you who have already read the story, you know how it really went down. But just in a foreshadow of opinion, it just seems that, okay, if God tell me to do it and, I can do this. But do you think that would have made sense for Pharaoh to hear it in that light, and take it for face value? That's the question, right? So God also said to Moses, say this to the people of Israel. Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. Okay, now check this out. When he is told to go to Pharaoh, all he's told to say is, I am who I am. Okay, now, but he said, when you're talking to the children of Israel, I don't want you to say that. I want you to tell them that Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. So God has two names that he wants to put out there. He wants the Egyptians to accept that he is who he is because he said he is, but he's Yahweh to the children of Israel because that's personal. That he wants them to know his actual name. Isn't it interesting? When you have a relationship with the Lord, he wants you to know him personally. But for those he don't have a relationship with, there's a distance, okay? You can't know God on a personal level unless you have a relationship with. You have to be invited into him. So when he draws you to him and he wants that relationship with you, he will let you get to know him on a personal level, okay? Now, he says, this is my eternal name, my name to remember for all generations. So the beginning of the video, I mentioned Yahweh, and that's why it's so important, because that's a name we were given to call him, and that's why I do that. Call him Yahweh. Now, go and call together all the elders of Israel. Tell them Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has appeared to me. He told me, I have been watching closely, and I see how the Egyptians are treating you. I have promised to rescue you from your oppression in Egypt. I will lead you to a land flowing with milk and honey, the land where the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. The elders of Israel will accept your message. Then you and the elders must go to the king of Egypt and tell him. Now this is interesting. The Lord sent the posse. Moses didn't have to go by himself. He was sent with the elders of Israel and said, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. So please let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. Now, this is what Moses was supposed to say, all right? Now, it says, but I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand forces him. God already knew that Pharaoh was not going to release Moses that easy. So what he said was, so I will raise my hand and strike the Egyptians, performing all kinds of miracles among them. Then at last he will let you go. And see, he said at last. Now that's interesting, because for those of you who have read further, you know what that at last really means. God spoke it, right? But even though God spoke it, it was a certain time for it to come to pass. He didn't tell Moses what at last meant. The Lord just told him at last was going to happen, but there was a series of events that had to happen before it came to pass. How many things have God told you that was going to happen in your life, but he did not tell you the beginning and in between, before the event takes place that he promised you? But he did tell you he was going to do what he told you. And so sometimes our human thinking is, when God tells us something, we expect for it to happen just the way God told us, without understanding some things are really a process. Moving forward, and it says, and I will cause Egyptians to look favorably on you. They will give you gifts when you go, so you will not leave empty-handed. Every Israelite woman will ask for articles of silver and gold and fine clothing from her Egyptian neighbors and from the foreign women in their houses. You will dress your sons and daughters with these, stripping the Egyptians of their wealth. And that's powerful right there. God already told Moses, when you come out, sweetheart, you coming out powerful. You coming out with something. You're going to come out, your women are going to have it going on. God wants us to have it going on, because we are his. We are his children. And when we belong to Jesus, oh my goodness, he loves us so much and wants to give us the best of the best, right? But there is a process. For some, it seems to happen sooner than others. But hey, we're not to get discouraged. We are to just stay faithful and stay focused in the process. So I hope these words have found you well today. And until the next time you sit with me, God bless you. Enjoy your tea.